Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Yellow Squared podcast. We're back for a season 2. We've had a little bit of a break over the summer, just letting some things at Watford go ahead, having a little bit of a rest ourselves. But of course, it's myself, Ned, and my brother James. Welcome back, James. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Very good. All refreshed after a particularly wet and windy summer. So yeah, all good. Ready to go. Really excited for the new season. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the new season. It's been a bit of a slow summer for Watford, but nonetheless, the excitement has crept up on me over time, and I'm looking forward to the start of the season in 3 days' time now. So, at the time of recording,
Yeah.
we're just a couple days away from the season. So, hopefully, you'll be listening to this before we play QPR, and hopefully, we'll get a massive result on the opening day, which will
Fingers
be
crossed.
the best possible start to the Valerian Ismail reign at Watford. So, we'll kick things off with just a little bit of an overview of what has gone on in pre-season and how we're feeling with the club. So, James, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, well, I think it's very easy to kind of get suckered into the sort of the start of the new season buzz. All the kits are being announced. We've had some last minute signings, but thinking back to sort of the last time we spoke, there's been so much that's gone on in the club. I'm just sort of looking back at some of the notes I'd written before recording this, and obviously we had the fans forum with Potso and Duxbury and some very interesting topics that were pulled out of that, and there's been some brilliant work done by you know all of the content creators for Watford and the journalism and the Watford Observers have been brilliant dissecting all of that. But I actually thought that was a pretty good, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting topic, and a lot of interesting things that came out of that discussion. I'm not going to go into that right now, but in some ways, it put me at ease in some respects in terms of sort of where the club is going long term. Really, just to touch upon sort of the line mentioned by Duxbury about the club being debt free by the end of next season, which is obviously massive for us. And there were some other elements of cause for concern in terms of sort of Gino Pozzo pretty content with how things have gone so far, which was a bit of an alarming situation. But we dissected that, looked at that pretty readily, and everyone's sort of picked the bones out of that one. So I'm not going to go into that in too much detail. But then things carried on with some of the signings early doors. I will go through those in a little bit of detail in a minute, I'm sure. But really, it's kind of felt like this summer has just been a revolving door, but it's been a one-way revolving door. We've just lost so many players. A lot of players we were expecting to sort of let go with loans ending and that kind of stuff. But I'm a bit taken aback by sort of some of the outs that we'd seen. We did our keep buy sell, and we said that we'd get rid of Bachmann, Booster Kong, Cathcart, and Gakia, Gaspar, Hina, Gosling, Sarr, and we wouldn't take the option up on Davis. So we'd get rid of all of those, and to be honest, barring Ngakia and Bachmann, they've gone. But some of the other names that have left as well is something, in my opinion. So a lot of people out, and it really does feel like that they've hit the reset button, which is something that we've been calling out for quite some time. I think there were some questions going around on Watford Twitter, sort of asking you to rate the transfer window so far, and I think I responded to a couple of them, and sort of said that I was sat at about a 6 out of 10 at the moment, because it feels like we've got rid of the right amount of people. I really like what we're doing, but we just need a few more signings to come in to really sort of bring that number up to sort of an 8, 7, 8, 9 out of 10, in my opinion. But I kind of think that the big thing for me that I suppose I've been sat thinking about for a while now is I think that there's kind of two main factors that the club are trying to juggle at the moment, and sort of the first one was the funds and the finances generated by the João Pedro deal. Obviously, 30 million, but I'm pretty confident that that's not going to be immediately reinvestable into the squad. The vast majority of that money is going to be in instalments and sort of results dependent. And I think a large chunk of that money was gone to pay off some debts within the club, obviously. So I don't think we're ever really going to see much João Pedro money being reinvested in the squad. So that's kind of the first thing that I was thinking about. And then I really do think the club were waiting to get rid of Sarr off the wage bill. So I think that's kind of why it's been pretty slow with deals coming in. It's because they wanted to sort of sort the finances out on those two big signings. But now, sort of as time of recording, as we're walking up towards the start of the season, a few more names have dropped in. Really liking Chak Vitadze and Jamal Lewis. I think I butchered that pronunciation. You'll probably have a go at me for a minute, mate. But I think the signings are coming in, so the excitement is slowly creeping back up. But yeah, so I'm in a relatively good place. Always excited for the start of a new season, and happy to just be chatting about it with you, and hopefully the listeners for the vast majority of the season.
Yeah, well, I think you pretty much put the nail on the head with the overview. I could not really add much else other than just agreeing completely that in the grand scheme of things, the ins and outs. The outs have definitely been what was required. There's probably been a couple names that I probably wouldn't have got rid of when you talk about João Ferreira and stuff like that, when we struggle a lot with injuries, and to have the numbers released for the shirt numbers released this season today, and only really having 20 full-time professionals, and that's including Ryan Andrews and James Morris in there. It just seems a little bit like we're leaving ourselves a little bit thin in squad depth, which is always a dangerous line to walk on in the Championship. But like we said, I know people are quite worried about the ins in terms of the signings, but we can't forget that the transfer window has pretty much got another month to go before it closes. It doesn't close as soon as the first game happens, so I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe 4 or 5 more signings to come in and just fill any gaps that they see at the start of the season. But I'm much looking forward to the season. Very glad to see the back end of the last season, and the only way is up, really. It was.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I think. Yeah. I think that's a really good point that you mentioned. Actually, sorry, just to jump in on you with sort of the transfer window having quite a lot of time left to run. Actually, in reality, because I was kind of thinking about this as well, and it's kind of a very Watford thing, really. Since the Pozzos have been in charge, is that the transfer dealings tend to be done quite late into the window. So it doesn't really surprise me. I think that's probably a combination of factors in terms of just trying to work out who and what they need, but also I think the closer you get to the deadline, actually the more likely you are to get deals over the line, because you can sort of really get down to the negotiation, selling clubs that are selling players and not necessarily in a position to have to sell. They can hold on a bit longer. And then sort of the closer you get to that deadline day, the more opportunity you've got to put a bid in, which might to that selling club be too good to sort of turn down, really.
Yeah.
So I think that's just kind of how Watford have been playing it. So yeah, I'm with you. I'd expect to see a few more signings come in sort of towards deadline day.
Yeah. So that's the sort of overview. We'll crack on with the signings then. So, including the boy Georgi Chekvetadze, who was announced this morning. Technically, there are now 6 additions to the Hornets this season, and that's including Martins as well. But technically, he's just they've extended his loan for another season from Udinese. So we'll get things started then. In no particular order, with Jamal Lewis. Before Georgie came in, he was the most recent signing for the Hornets, and I'm very, very happy with this one. I think
Yeah.
before he came in, the window's a little bit flat. You know, we've been desperate to get a left back to come in and take that position. He's got bags of experience at his age. He's only 25, but he's played a lot of football in the Championship and the Premier League. He's the exact left wing back we were crying out for. You know, we said it in the Keep Buy Sell episode. If you saw that, you know, we need a left back who's hungry, who's athletic, needs to get forward. Just the opposite of Mario Gaspar in every way, to be honest. And
Yeah.
which is why you know, last season I was so disappointed we didn't get Ethan Laird from Manchester United, because you know he's exactly the type of player that would have been able to do that. Obviously, we didn't go on to get him, but this season that's a far more sensible transfer in my opinion, and
Yeah.
I think there's a little option to buy on that transfer as well, which would be, you know, a really tasty addition, given that he'll be hungry for a place and hungry to get minutes in, especially as a lone player. So, how do you feel about the signing, James?
Oh, mate. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on this one. I think it's kind of exactly what we wanted and what we needed. Um, Looking at how Watford have played in pre-season with this kind of back three morphing into a back four, very much the emphasis is on the wing back. So absolutely a priority position to fill. No, you're sort of taking nothing away from James Morris, but you know I
Oh
think
no,
Jamal Lewis is exactly the type of player we need, proven at both the Championship and the Premier League. Um, he's definitely going to be hungry enough. He's still sort of, is he 25, 24, 25,
25, 25, yeah.
yeah, 25, yeah. So he's exactly in the age bracket where he's still got the chance to push back to the Premier League to make a name for himself again. Obviously stepping away from Newcastle, who have gone on to bigger, better things. So I think it's a brilliant signing for the club. I think it's a great signing for the player, and it feels like it's the perfect fit. And I think he's going to be a real attacking outlet for us this season. I'm genuinely excited to see him play. I don't know, might be completely wrong. People will be shouting at their radios, in their phones or whatever, YouTube, when they're watching this. But I get the kind of the catchy Anyas off him. Do you know, like real attacking,
Yeah,
ultra
yeah.
attacking, fast, direct. And I hope he is, because hey, that's, do you know what? I'd much rather watch that than poor old Mario blowing after doing 20 yards. So yeah, brilliant signing for
Yeah,
me. Love it.
yeah, excellent. So we'll move on then to the first edition of the transfer window, which was in fact Reece Healy. I'll let you start things off with this one, James. Take it away.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. First signing of the window, and you know what? It was like hey, this seems like a real shrewd bit of business. He's you know, it was MK Dons he left, and went to France. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
shown some good adaptability. And you know, when he went to France, he's torn it up, as well as torn his ACL.
yeah.
But poor bloke. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, obviously. But you know, unfortunately, he's come off the back of a bit of an injury, which is a slight question mark over him. But overall, I think it's a really good signing, really smart signing. I don't see him as being sort of like a first choice just yet. He's obviously not played too much in pre-season. I'm not expecting him to start on against QPR. Maybe Stevenage in the cup game, but you know, I really like this kind of concept of looking for players in different leagues. Someone that has proven to score goals at sort of Ligue 2 and Ligue 1 level. Um, and, you know, I think personally, he fits the mould of the kind of signing and player profile that we need to be getting after. Again, he's done it in France, but he's come to England, which he will see as a step up and an opportunity for him to push on towards the Premier League. So I think it's a really great opportunity for him. I think he's going to be hungry and determined to prove himself at this level, and I think it's another good match. So overall, really positive signing. Not as exciting for me as Jamal Lewis, but I think a really good option, and I think someone a bit like a couple of some of the other names that we're going to talk about in a minute. Someone who I think comes with goals. He comes with goals. I think he's at least 5 to 10 goals this season, I reckon.
Yeah, I hope so. And you obviously know how much I love the idea of money ball in football.
Yeah,
I think the clubs that use that system are really successful and really sensible with their transfers. And I just love the idea of finding a hidden gem in a in a Toulouse team that he didn't really feature much last season, but he was unbelievable the season before in League Two. He scored something like 27 goals that season, top scorer. There's goals in him, and I think, like you said, this is the platform for him to kick on. He's entering his prime as a striker. He's 28 now. He's really got a few years left in his career to kick on and cement himself at this level, if not higher. So I think it's a great bit of business. I agree with you. Didn't really make me unbelievably excited as much as somebody like Georgie or Jamal Lewis. But, we'll look back on this signing at the end of the season, I'm sure, and think, you know what? He wasn't unbelievable, but he came through with goals when we needed him. And that's what you need at this level, and what we didn't have last season enough. So
I think he's. I think sorry. I think he's a bit of a no risk signing as well in some respects, because I don't think he'll be commanding a massive wage. We've obviously picked him up on a free, and I don't think it was a particularly long contract for him either. So, I think the risk versus reward for Reece Healy is pretty favourable from the club's perspective. So yeah, I think good business.
Excellent. Yeah. And in my opinion, another good bit of business coming up next in Tom Ince, a fee of around £58,000 from Reading. And if I'm being honest, that's an absolute steal. He is proven its level. He'll score. He'll get assists, cutting in from the left or the right. He's versatile, experienced. He's quite a complete package for the Championship. He always scores against us, so hopefully he can find, the target, but with us rather than against us. This season, it would just be really nice to have someone consistent on the wing that will create, a bit of magic more often than we saw Sarr do it. Especially, at the Championship level where Ince is incredibly experienced. I think it's a really solid signing, but another one for me, which was a little bit like, oof, it'll do, but it's not blowing my socks off. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, actually, mate. I think Tom Ince's signing has been unfairly bashed by a lot of fans, in my opinion. I completely agree with you. He always scores against us, so better to have him on our side than not. And unbelievable from the Watford socials with the announcement video showing him scoring all of the goals that he'd scored against us, which was brilliant. Good value. And maybe it was so good that they couldn't sign anyone for a couple of weeks because they'd used up all of their good ideas. So maybe that's what slowed things down a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I think for the reasons that you said, the fee was cheap. He's experienced at this level. He comes with goals and assists. He's English, so the squad building aspect of it in terms of registered players, homegrown players, we're in a good place with that. I think again, for the reasons we spoke about, Healy being relatively low risk, it's a 2-year contract, it's a cheap fee. I don't think it would command a massive wage, if I'm being totally honest. No. I think it's a relatively low risk move for the club. I think it's a nice squad building option. I don't think it's sort of a marquee signing, and I think those are going to come later on. Oh, I hope they're going to come later on. But I think it's good, and I think the one thing that slightly irked me was sort of people saying that he was played in a relegated side last season. Just like to point out that Reading would have stayed up without the points deduction, and obviously the players can't help that.
He also got a solid amount of goals and assists.
Yeah, yeah, so I think that was a bit harshly treated there. So again, not many qualms with that signing, to be totally honest. Relatively positive. Sort of in the sort of Healy bracket there, I think, of a good squad addition.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So we'll move on to the next edition of the window for the Hornets, which is Jake Livermore.
Yeah,
On a free transfer, again, one of these relatively low risk options. He's not going to be asking for a huge wage. And I think with the likes of Cleverley, Cathcart, Gosling all departing from the club this window, we need championship leaders to step in and take care of the younger players. And especially this group's quite inexperienced at the championship level. Most of them only have a season under their belt at most, whereas this guy's been around for a while. He's got a lot of experience in the championship and in the Premier League as well. He's played majority of his football in that sort of central midfield, controlling the tempo of the game. He's not going to win matches on his own. He's not going to run box to box because his legs don't have it anymore. But we were a damn lot better at the start of last season with Cleverley in the team than we were towards the middle and the end when he was absent, and we had barely any leaders on the pitch. And if you've listened to any of the pods before, you know how important that idea of leadership is, especially for me. I think that the club has been crying out for new leaders and people to come forward. And, clearly Ismail rates him because he's already a part of the core group of players who are going to be considered the leaders of the dressing room. So, again, it's not a really incredible signing, but I think it would be one of those signings where if another championship team sign him, you'd be like, you know what, I understand why they've done that. It's nothing special, but you can understand. So I think it's a fair signing for Watford to make.
Yeah, mate. I don't think there's too much more to say on that one. I think you're absolutely right. It's an Ismail signing. He knows him, which is a positive sign for me. And having looked at how Watford have set up this pre-season with this kind of central centre back stepping forward into midfield, going forward, I think Livermore could play that role quite nicely. For the reasons you've said, his legs aren't there anymore. But I think in terms of being that general on the pitch, managing what's going on, being that calm voice, I think he's perfect for that role. And if it turns out he doesn't play very much, then I also think he's going to be a big voice in the change room, and you might see him have the same effect that like John Eustace had at the start of the Potts era. He didn't play very much, but everybody said how important he was in sort of bringing the team together and being that sort of club captain type role. So again, I know a lot of people didn't like it, or a few people were unhappy with this kind of signing. But again, relatively positive about it because I think the key thing that is coming across actually with the way we're talking about all these signings coming in so far is there seems to be logic in each and every one of those signings, and I think that's more important to me than anything else.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we'll move on to the signing, but not signing really, in Martins rejoining the Hornets from Udinese. And to be honest, I didn't really think this signing was going to happen.
No.
It didn't really feel like he did a lot when he was here last season, but he arrived in January, went away to the under-20 something or other championships for a while, featured a few times. I think they just want him to have another year of experience in English football, which I can't complain about. I just think that there could have been other players who would have made the switch from the sister club in Italy, which probably would have been a bit more helpful than Martins. But it's just another one of those signings. I don't think there's really anything else to add to that.
No, I mean, I saw him in the flesh against Boreham Wood. He was playing out on the sort of left wing position. for those sort of those Football Manager people, it was a bit more of like sort of inverted wing. It was sort of cutting in a lot more, and he looked tricky. He looked sharp. He looked like he was, sort of enthusiastic and sort of keen, which I think for a player who's obviously got talent and flair, that's important. So hey, if the manager believes in him and the manager wants to play him and he can sort of cut in and run around and sort of be unpredictable, bit like old Jack Vidadze, then all the more for it, especially sort of coming off the bench, sort of being a bit tricky. Yeah, I completely agree with you though. Of all of the players that actually come back to the club, I did not see Martins being that player.
No,
but hey, he's here now, and we might actually get to see the player that we thought we were getting last January.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be Watford without having some sort of Fluminense star boy, would it?
Oh yeah.
So moving on to the. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, mate, no. Don't worry about it.
So moving on to the final transfer. Up to this point in time, it is Georgi Chakvetadze. I'm terribly sorry to every Georgian who's just listened to me try and pronounce his name, but this is the signing we've been looking forward to for a good week and a half, 2 weeks now.
Feels like it.
It's definitely taken a while to get it over the line, but I am very excited by this player. He seems like a real gem. He just needs to be unleashed on the Championship. He's got a cracking highlight reel already. The only problem I will say is that he does seem to be quite injury prone. He's missed, in the past 4 or 5 seasons, he's probably missed about 50 or 60 games to a knee injury of some sort. Which is a bit of a concern, but hopefully those days are past him, and he isn't out for too long if he's out at all. But he looks like a real tricky player. He'll provide assists. He'll get himself some goals here and there. I think he could be the guy with Asprilla in there as well to really unlock a lot of Championship defences this season. And that's the exciting transfer that we've been looking forward to. And it just it makes you a bit more excited about the season, if I'm being honest, as a Watford fan.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of like a left of field signing. Coming from Europe, highlight reel, as he said, is exciting. Lots of sort of flicks and turns and sort of explosive movements, which is exactly kind of what you want to see. You want to, that's what I think a lot of Watford fans like, is just some entertainment, and hopefully he's going to bring that and bring some unpredictability. The injuries is a slight concern, but I saw it on Watford Twitter. Someone said that I think that's kind of the bracket, unfortunately, that Watford are in at the moment, with having to take a punt on a few of these names, a bit of a gamble, with these sort of talented players, who sort of maybe have struggled to just reach the level of these big clubs. So fingers crossed he can stay fit and get a run of form together, because mate, I think he seems to be he feels like the kind of player that, if he gets on a run of form, he could be sort of unplayable in the league. But my concern is, or my head is saying, don't get too ahead of yourself right now. We've had other sort of signings like this in the past which have turned out to be duds, but I'm choosing to stay positive, because bloody hell, the season's not even started yet. So let's go.
Yeah, he does seem a bit like the kind of Phil Zinkernagel type player who we didn't really get to see a lot of in the Championship, which is a bit of a shame, really. But hopefully, Georgie can come in and turn it on for Watford. I mean, the Georgians absolutely love him. He's a young guy as well. And he's got a lot of football ahead of him. So hopefully he can kick on with us this season, potentially move to Watford permanently, as we seem to be adopting the Zealand-style transfer of just loaning everyone. But hopefully it comes out well. So that's all the confirmed signings. Obviously, there's lots of rumours swirling about, but as we have already found out this window, rumours genuinely tend not to come true. Probably about 3 and 5, I'd say, because we've had a few players already who seem to be dead on, but then it comes out that there's not even been a real bid from the club or even contact made. So it's one of those things. I think, interestingly, we've recorded this on the day where the club releases the shirt numbers for the season. Couple of interesting points I got from that. No Quadro Bar or Passetto. Passetto's vanished. I don't know where he's gone. Interesting that Bar's not been kept in there, potentially going away on loan again, or maybe a permanent transfer, which would be a bit of a shame given that he's not had a chance to feature at all, really. For the Hornets, given he looked really exciting when we signed him. The other standout feature was that there has been no signed number 9, which would suggest that we're on the hunt for a traditional number 9 striker who will come in to play. There's been a few rumours of Kiefer Moore and those kind of players. So, who knows? But like we said already, you can't get too ahead of yourself. We just got to wait until the end of the window. But I would definitely expect to see 4 or 5 more players to come in and bolster the ranks, if not add extra amount of quality to the side. Anything else you wanted to add to the transfer chat, James?
Really, just I think kind of what I would say is I think you're right about the number 9 coming in. If I was being sort of greedy, I'd be looking at another sort of first choice right back, and maybe another centre midfielder or some kind of midfielder to come in to just add a bit of squad depth to it. I think we're pretty good sort of with attacking players, wide players. So yeah, those kind of 2 positions, another target man, and maybe a right wing back. But what I would say is that I've actually been quite impressed with Bio so far this summer. He looked sharp and mobile, and he looked like he was really grafting in the Bournemouth game, and he looked pretty sharp as well in some of the other highlights I've seen. So, I'm going to be championing him for maybe 90 minutes on Saturday, before I sort of retract all of my statements. But he looked pretty good. He looked pretty sharp, and they were definitely sort of playing more to his strengths so far with the system. So maybe he'll sort of come into his own with the new system. Oh, and also the goalkeeping situation is a bit of a weird one. I know we might talk about the leadership group in a minute, with Bachmann signing on for another 5 years and being made club captain, but also with the rumours that COYH is going to go. I don't really know where that leaves us in terms of sort of goalkeepers. My personal hope is if Bachmann is number 1 and is the captain, I know Ben Hamer's been brought into that senior leadership group as well. I'm guessing that means he's number 2. I really hope that they bring through one of the academy lads to be sort of that third choice.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm trying to think of their names now. They've just escaped me. Is it Dante Baptiste, and there's another lad that's really poor. Is it Alfie Marriott or someone? I can't remember.
Something like that.
My apologies to the listeners who are screaming at their phones for me for getting that wrong. But hopefully they give one of the academy lads a step up and to be the third choice goalkeeper, which would be real nice. And because I think that's the one thing that we've started to see now is that the club are willing to bring academy players through and give them a chance and blood them, which is exactly what we're after.
Yeah. I've just had a thought though. We can't forget Ray Mana is still a free agent, so I would love to see him come back to be a number 9.
Yeah. They've retired the number 9, haven't they, in honour of him?
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll move on then. We will discuss the leadership group. So, a few names in there from Bachmann, Ben Hamer. It looks like he's probably nailed on to be the number 2. Again, hinting that Okoye is on his way out. Interesting to see people like Lauser and Jake Livermore in there as well.
Yeah.
Really just showing that bit of experience, and giving that role to Lauser. I really like that. I think that he will come into his own. He can
Yeah,
really
we
be
spoke.
that guy at
Yeah, because
Watford.
we spoke about that, didn't we? We spoke about that sort of at the end of last season, where we almost sort of, I think we were sort of questioning sort of what situation Loser was in, because he sort of looked a little bit sort of frustrated and almost petulant at points,
Mm,
and we were kind of questioning whether or not that was because he's so far ahead of everyone else, or and maybe this is an opportunity for him to kind of to bring that all on board, be that voice in the dressing room, um, almost put a label on it in some respects, and maybe that's a really genius bit of management by Valerian,
yeah.
to kind of give him some responsibility to sort of help bring the rest of the team on with him. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, I think maybe with the likes of Sa and Zhao leaving as well, there's quite a few other people leaving this window as well. I think maybe the the egos could have left, which gives Lauser a bit more. Probably could give him a bit more confidence in himself, and also give himself a bit more of a voice on the field.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I suppose the main thing we need to talk about is probably Dan Backman. Um,
yeah,
First of
yeah,
all, congratulations on more years at Watford, and obviously becoming the new club captain.
yeah, yeah, massive.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it would be remiss of kind of us or me to say um, we, my personal opinion. I think he's a good shot stopper. I think he's a good keeper in the championship. My personal opinion was that I think it was time for him to sort of leave as
Mm,
part of that squad rebuild, and we said sell him in our keep by sell video.
yeah.
But hey, clearly I don't work with him every day. I don't see what he puts in the training ground. He's clearly made a very good impression on Valerian Ismail, um, and he's won him round. And if that's what's happened, then that's exactly the kind of player that we want at the club, in my personal opinion. You
Mm,
know, I, you know, I'm more than happy to sort of go back on what I said in the past. If that's the feeling around the club, they want him to be that voice and have that leadership position. Then do you know what? I'm fully behind him. He's clearly done something on the training ground that has sort of won the coaching staff around. And if that's the case, more power to him. So yeah, absolutely no qualms about it whatsoever. Now, like I said, I think he's an excellent shot stopper in the championship. Question marks over some of his distribution, but Valerian likes to go long and be a bit more direct. So it might be so Backman might feel a bit more comfortable, sort of basically drilling the ball up towards the target man. Um, so yeah, those are my thoughts, mate. Anything different at your end?
Uh, I mean, I don't think I can escape the fact that a couple months ago we were saying that his time was up in a Watford shirt. He
Yeah,
got sent off for kung fu kicking someone um, in that home game against Huddersfield, and I really thought there probably couldn't be any comeback from that in a Watford shirt. But you know what? I'm pleased for him to sign on. I'm pleased that they've picked someone who's been around the club for a while, so
yeah,
he obviously gets it. In my opinion, I probably would have made either Ken Sema the captain, on the merit that he's been at the club for a long time as well, or somebody along those lines, or Ryan Porteous. I think he's got great leadership qualities as well. But you know what? I respect the decision, and I think we just got to back him. We just have to back him. There's no
absolutely,
point in tearing him
absolutely,
down.
no
Um,
chance.
it just has to be positive. Otherwise, we could be in for another really long season. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah,
so we'll move on from discussing the new formed core group of leaders to the kits. So
oh, yes, best part, eh?
this is quite an interesting part. We had a little bit of a discussion off camera, as it were,
Yeah, yeah,
on our feelings of the kits yesterday, and we're kind of similar for two out of the three, but we had a quite much difference of opinions
Yeah.
on the third kit. So we'll start with the home kit.
Yep.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I've not seen it in person. Obviously, you were at Boreham Wood, so you've seen it.
Yeah, I've
But
seen it in the
I'm
flesh.
I'm just a fan of Kelme doing something different every year. We see a lot of clubs that do just a standard Nike template or an Adidas template, and it's just a bit. Ugh.
Yeah.
But Kelme, hats off to you. I don't always like the kits that they've done for Watford, but this season I've got to say the home kit very different, but you smashed it, James.
Yeah. I like the difference. I like the fact that there's something new, something that stands out. Yeah, there's not a lot of yellow on it on the front, but actually, when I saw it in the flesh, there's quite a lot of yellow on show, particularly on the back. So it still feels like you're watching Watford. There's nice yellow shorts on there, and we've spoken about this at great length. In my opinion, actually, your feelings surrounding the kit is all influenced by what happens sort of on the pitch or that season or in that time of your life. So if Watford go on and storm the league this year, win the league by 10 points, everyone's going to be turning around and going, oh, God, I remember that kit. What a year, what a time that was.
Yeah.
But so I think I like it. I like the pattern. I think it's different. And there's quite a lot of people who were quite rightly saying if that was Dortmund that brought that kit out, then it would be an instant bestseller. And I don't think Watford's any different. So I like it. Big fan.
So, James, I'll leave this one up to you. Score out of 10, please.
Score out of 10. This one for me sat a nice ice cold 7.5.
Oh, love that, love that. And I think it's actually quite interesting you said that because, we look back on the 2014-15 kit with fond memories when it was just the most basic Puma template on earth.
Yeah, if we came out today, people would be furious, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd
But
like,
you know what?
like Football Manager sponsor,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. There'd be some sort of issue with it. It wouldn't be yellow enough or something like that along those lines. So we'll move on to the away kit.
Yeah.
I was a little bit. Yeah, obviously we saw about a month ago or so after the home kit was released that the away and third kit was kind of leaked by Kelme China.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I wasn't particularly impressed by the away or the third kit at the time. But seeing the away kit, I like the burgundy shorts. I like the burgundy socks. I think the thing that ruins it for me is just the Mr. Q sponsor. We'd never do ourselves any favours with our main club sponsor.
Stinker.
We've had some
Horrible.
stinkers in the past couple of years, but I think Mr.
Yeah.
Q does top it. I just think it sounds really stupid and it looks really silly as well.
Yeah.
So that does kind of take it down for me a little bit, but hats off to the club for allowing adults to buy the shirt without the gambling sponsor on it as well, which is sound.
Yeah, and that's massive.
It's a really good decision from the club.
Real well done for the club there.
But yeah, you know what? I want to see it in person. But I think it could be an all right little away kit.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see because a couple seasons ago we barely even wore the away kit, the white away kit. We tended to stick with the third kit, whereas last season we were all over the third kit. And, whether we use the away kit a bit more or the third kit, who knows? But you know what? We just have to go with it. What do you think about the away kit?
Yeah, mate. I actually quite liked it. I think it's quite nice colours. Watford away kits being in white is always a plus point for me. My issue with the trim this year is kind of like on the sleeves. There's sort of that blocky colour. We'll talk about that on the third kit as well. I think it just sort of takes it down a bit for me. But yeah, I'm a fan of this. I'm a fan of this away kit minus Mr. Q, obviously. I can get in the bin.
Yep. So I'll give this one a score out of 10.
Give us a score, mate. Yeah, go on.
Oh, I'll give it a cheeky 6.5 out of 10 with room to grow. I think when I see it in person.
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll move on to the third kit that was dropped just yesterday. Now we had a bit of a difference in opinion off camera. So that was yesterday though. Has it grown on you since?
Um, uh, for me, no.
No.
Maybe in person, but for me, viewers and listeners, um, it looks too much like a training kit for me, and I think as I said yesterday, it's kind of this weird dark blue blocky trim that's kind of going around. It just feels too much like they've decided to stick a sponsor on one of those training kits. Really.
Mm.
Also, like I think in some of the pictures for the kit release, they were wearing white shorts, and I don't know if that goes. But hey, I'm happily stand corrected if there's a lovely little turquoise sock number with some slick white shorts in it, and it looks nice on the TV or in person. But for me, I'm not sold on it. What about you, mate?
The thing is, right, I did quite like it when it first dropped. It was my favourite out of the away and the third kit when it was kind of leaked. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't get over the white shorts. I'll be honest, I really didn't like the whole blue and white shorts last season. I appreciate that was for commemorative for the whole 100 years of the Vic stuff, but and just the whole history side of the club. But I can't back the white shorts with blue. I think it would just look so much better if it was that lovely aqua blue all the way through. But yeah, it's just something about the white shorts with it. I'm not a big fan. Other than that, yeah, I can agree. It does look a little bit like a training shirt from last season or a couple seasons ago. I can't remember what the comparison was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a fan of it. I think I'm more drawn to your sort of argument of it. So for that reason, I'll probably give it a 5 out of 10.
I think we should let the listeners decide. Let us know.
Go on, yeah, in the comments below, give us a little rating on all the kits if you
Yeah.
fancy, but mainly the third kit. But yeah, I don't think I could give it more than a 5 at this moment in time.
I'm not going to be buying it, put it that way.
No, no. So I think that's just about everything for our little season preview slash pre-season overview. Obviously, we've had some pre-season friendlies, but usually, it's just about finding minutes, playing people in different positions, trying to work out this new system and stuff. So I didn't think it was that important to really mention. You know, the kind of results that went on. We got a couple of draws here and there, and that's about it really. But yeah, I think that's just about everything. Anything else to add, James?
I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you, mate.
Oh,
if you're ready for it.
absolutely, yeah.
So,
Fire away.
go on, mate. Where will Watford finish in the league this season?
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say top 10, based on the current squad. It seems a little bit inexperienced, a bit, the ability to lose a few games on the bounce, but then also the ability to win a few games on the bounce. You never know with injuries and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm gonna say top 10 with a possibility of sneaking into the playoffs if we, get a few results going and the club really supports Valerian this season. What about you? Where do you think Watford will finish?
Well, to be fair, it's really interesting you said that, mate, because down on my notes here, I had 10th to 5th. Might be being a bit optimistic, but yeah, I could see us falling in that category somewhere. So yeah, 10th to 5th for me. All right, top scorer this season for you?
Top scorer. It's between two for me. It's got to be between Healy and the Crow, Vakun Bio. Go on, I'll get him in there. The Crow for me.
Bio. And player of the season.
Oof, a tough one. But depending on injuries, I'm going to say it's got to be Aspria for me.
Nice.
And player of the season for you?
Player of the season for me, I think that could be Loser.
That's a fair choice. He was in my sort of top 3.
Do you
Any
know what
more?
I'm going to say? Sorry, can I say two? Sorry,
Yeah, of course.
I think it's either going to be loser, or if the season goes terribly, it'll be Porto.
Yeah, or Ryan Andrews, depending on how badly the season goes.
Yeah, or whoever we sign in January.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but no, I'm going to the QPR game on Saturday, so I'm very excited for that. Long-term friend of the pod, Nick, is coming with us, so we're gonna be sat in their Stratton John stand for that one. Looking forward to it. Opening day.
Absolutely, sounds brilliant. Interesting that it is now a home game, not rather than an away game. So good that you managed to get some tickets for that. I think it's a sellout, which is always excellent to see.
Yeah.
I was pretty concerned that we wouldn't really sell out the Vic much this season, but I think there's a bit more hope, belief, rejuvenation about the fans
Well, we're all
around
idiots,
the
aren't we?
club. Yeah,
Well,
we've got to back
we'll
it.
have forgotten. It's been 6 weeks, so we'll all have forgotten. And hopefully, a bit of your song action will come on at some point this season.
I'd love that to be
We're all
the
backing it.
yeah. I'd love that to be the club anthem. That would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely right, mate.
So I just want to say a massive thank you for the listeners. If you've made it this far into the pod, that's greatly appreciated. Please, if you do want to see some more content from us, don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on Spotify and any other podcast app you may listen to. We're pretty much on all of them now. So we've got all that covered for you. We'll be releasing pods pretty much every week.
Yep.
Here and there, previews, that kind of thing. But, we're looking forward to the season. We had a great, 3 or 4 months from
Yeah.
March onwards till the end of last season. Even though the football was terrible, we had an absolute blast providing some content for you guys. Hopefully, we're moving on to some better things and we can really start to level up the content from here on out. So, thank you very much for listening.